I think my wife said David is like the more attractive version of you, Jack, which is great. It's like thanks, wife. Yeah,
Like, you're like, I agree, but ouch.
yeah. Like, well, he is a movie star, so that's probably good. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is David Starr from Watcher Pass, and today I'm excited to talk to Jack C. Newell, the writer and director of Monuments, which is releasing on VOD and digital on August 3rd, 2021. We're going to talk to him in just a second, but first, let's check out the trailer. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you.
He's been doing the exact same thing for weeks, carrying her ashes everywhere with him like a freaking weirdo.
I've been seeing her. Laura.
She's gone, man.
We've got to do what we need to do to put her to rest and move on.
What?
I want to report a stolen car.
Shampoo.
From the scatter you were, we were the happiest.
I'm lost. Or my ashes are anyway, and my whole family wants you arrested.
Shampoo.
I'm sorry about that too, right now.
I can't do anything with sorry. Action, Ted!
I'm just gonna...
Hi there, David.
How are you?
Good. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late.
Hey, no worries at all. So thanks so much for joining. Are you all ready? Are you good to go?
I'm ready to do it. Let's do it.
Perfect. All right. And also, your microphone is fantastic. Your voice sounds amazing. So
Because you have those like really intense headphones on. I mean, you just got real good quality sound.
I got to hear your voice. I have to make sure to react to everything. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me. This is Jack C. Newell, the writer and director of Monuments, who's coming to VOD and digital on August 3rd, 2021. So I guess, I want to know, where in your crazy mind did this come from? Did this idea germinate? I mean, it feels like maybe it was a loss, or maybe it was a funny family trip, like some combination of all of this. Like, where did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, great question. And it's a little bit of that. It starts, with loss. When I was in high school and college, my mom and my brother both passed away, sort of in a short succession.
Oh wow, that's horrible.
Yes, it was horrible and the worst experience of my life. I mean, it's awful. Didn't really deal with it. Probably, didn't deal with it well. And sort of fast forward to me getting married to my now wife, and my mother-in-law knew I was a filmmaker, and she was like, well, I'm a writer and I wrote this short story. Would you want to read it just to share, and I read it, and it was about a newly married couple who the wife dies, and she's like, would you scatter my ashes at this museum? And so this is a story about a guy breaking into a museum and scattering her ashes. And because I was newly married and feeling all of those good feelings of just being excited and thinking about a future together with Rebecca, and also that brings up a lot of the past and like dealing with like losing people. And this short story really hit me, and it felt like it really resonated with me, and it felt like an opportunity was there for me to take, because it had a clear beginning, middle, and end, and it gave me the opportunity to use it to explore these things that I've been feeling for the last 15 years, and sort of try to find a way to talk about my experience dealing with grief in this film, and that's essentially how we got to Monuments.
That is interesting. I mean, it's kind of, you're using this moment after such a happy experience to then explore some of your past, pain. I think that explains kind of a lot of where this kind of style came from, because this isn't, you'd think that this would be a sad story, but it really is, it has a lot of heart and drama, especially towards the end, but like there's a lot of comedic aspects to it as well that make it a lot more upbeat than you would expect from a story about a man who is newly married and loses his wife.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in my experience, and whether you've lost someone, or even if you're just like, if you haven't lost anyone yet, if you've been lucky in that way, and like you're just dealing with this past year and a half or whatever with COVID, it's like, it's not simply all dark, and it's not simply all sad. I think a lot of times these movies just move into just like, we were happy, and then she died and I was sad, and then I got over it, and now I'm slightly less sad, or now I'm happy. I mean, it's just so sort of dumb, actually, and it doesn't really reflect my experience with it. And I think that it's emotionally, you never get over it. I think that's the one thing about grief. Like, or COVID or anything, like we're never gonna get over it. We're never gonna be like, oh, okay, that, yeah, you know, it's gonna be like, it's always gonna come back in weird ways, and the weird ways in which it comes back can be beautiful, it can be sad, it can be heartbreaking, it can be all those things. And when you're dealing with it in the moment, you find yourself in a heightened situation, and in any heightened situation, anything is liable to happen. You know, I think some of the hardest I've ever laughed was at, you know, in and around, you know, funerals or just these different things, because you're at this heightened sort of sense of dealing with with it, and you find yourself just in weird, you know, in weird moments.
Well, I think that's a good point. You know, I'm sure many people have lost people, but you know, when you're singularly focused on something like a funeral or remembering someone, you're really focused on that person. So you can have these wild swings where you'll remember something funny that they did and everyone laughs, and then you also remember the good things, and you just go in these kind of roller coasters of emotion, which I think, you know, to your point, that this heightened sense, I think, is a really good way to describe it.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly right.
And so, you know, the short story that you got from your mother-in-law, was it comedic? Was it more heartfelt? And then you kind of added some elements as you were kind of building it out into a film. Where did this lovely kind of, I'm trying to think of the word, this quirky kind of comedy aspects of the film, especially the family. The family was kind of this hodgepodge set of very random people that also just came together perfectly. So
yeah. No, the short story was hyper simple. Like, just like, it was really almost like a treatment with like not a real lot of characterization in it. It was just sort of like, here's this thing that happened. And so a lot of that is me adding that into it. Part of it's just my interest and like sort of, I think, what movies can do. Like, I think movies are about using fantasy or dream elements. I think that's what's fun about movies. And that's what you can do there. And so sort of in doing that, you know, part of this movie is, it's just Ted. The movie is a road trip, but it's also Ted's journey through all of the different ways that you're supposed to grieve, or that people grieve. And so whether it's the family with, like, I didn't want to get into religion in this, but they essentially stand in for religions with tradition. So it's like, here's how it's supposed to be done by the book, you know, by this, like, something that's completely arbitrary that we've just decided because of whatever, right? Or Amber, who just doesn't want to let go, or the sirens who just want to let go immediately, or it's Howl, who just is like giving you the most, like, I'm clearly upset, sort of like dealing with this thing and doing this thing. And so, or it's like at the museum where it's like, things should be put behind glass, don't touch anything, it's all good, you know. Like, I think with that, then you have Ted, who's the center of it all, and then he's surrounded by this like cast of characters, and so it really comes out of that. And then I think, to answer the question, the base question is that, like, my just core interest is, like, I view things comedically. It's not really a choice. I don't think you have a choice necessarily to be funny or not. I like doing this sort of, it's a very small story on an epic scale, because that's the sort of movie I want to watch, and sort of movie I like. And so sort of playing in all of that. And I think it's interesting because, like, I wrote the script, and then I started talking about it with Matt and Stephanie, who were the DP and the production designer. And we made the movie. And the thing that was so interesting was that when we finished the movie, Stephanie saw it and she was like, it's weird because this movie, the script wasn't the movie, but like how we talked about the movie is the movie you made, but like the script you wrote felt like it wasn't the movie. I don't know if that's making any sense right now, but it's like the script was purely a function to get out the movie that was somewhere in here. And in the end, we made the movie that we had been talking about.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the things that are, you know, most noticeable about this film, especially kind of this like classic style. I'm not 100% sure where, like, what time period this style is. It feels like maybe 60s to 80s, somewhere in there is kind of what this film feels like. You know, you've got these really intense kind of old school sound effects, this really beautiful music, and then this kind of like film style that feels like a nature documentary almost at times. And I think that kind of stuff is stuff that you know, doesn't, I mean, I don't know, I didn't read the script, but probably doesn't translate on the script, but when you kind of build it up, that's when you really see it take life.
That's the hard thing about screenwriting. I mean, I don't know if you want to go down this path too far, but it's like, there are really great scripts that never get made into movies, and there's really bad scripts that get turned into movies. I mean, it's sort of an interesting thing, but I think that's why this movie, like, you could never give this movie to another director really because of the nature of it. But you're absolutely right. Like, we're pulling from, 1960s and 70s American film, like sort of the classic. It's really, they don't make these movies anymore. They would never make this movie. No one would. I mean, we did. So I guess you do. Like,
one person did.
One person did. And I love like David Lean, like the epics, like we just rewatched Bridge on the River Kwai the other day. And I think his best films, he's so interesting because like it started as his first number of films were very, very small, just basically 2-person dramas. And what makes River Kwai or even Lawrence of Arabia so good is that it's a really small story. I mean, River Kwai is really about three guys, Saito, Nicholson, and William Holden's character, who I can't remember right now. But it's really human, but it's a huge movie, right? It's this huge epic. And Monuments is like that too, because it's really a simple story about just a couple trying to deal with their relationship. I mean, just because it happens to majority take place after she's dead, that's what you can do in movies. That's what makes it fun. But that's also, we're trying to pull from that sort of style of filmmaking where, it's, the letting wide shots play, choosing your close-ups and your medium close-ups for the right moments to maximize impact, not just like, here's 90 minutes of medium close-ups, which is what feels like most movies are now these days. Trying to find ways, and also letting every single department do some of the storytelling, costume, hair, makeup, production design, locations, music, editorial, like at any given, and then sometimes we are going to just cut to medium close-ups and let the scene play on the actors' faces with no music, because this is what that moment needs. Like with David and Marguerite when they're saying goodbye, or with Howell and Ted when they're in the hospital room, like just letting these moments play with just really wonderful acting.
And speaking of the acting, I'd like to get a little bit into the cast. I mean, where did you find this cast? I hadn't seen a lot of their work, but they came together really well. I also liked, you mentioned that this is tangentially related to things that you've gone through and grief you've been through. And David Sullivan, I think, kind of looks a little bit like you. So I don't know if that was intentional or if that's just luck of the draw. But
I don't know what, I didn't realize it when we did it. We cast them, and then you start making the movie, and like, you're spending all day looking at actors. I mean, all you do is look at actors. You just, are they lit right? Are they makeup right? It's really weird how much you scrutinize these people's faces. I think someone was like, "Well, you guys look a lot alike." It's like weird.
It's a compliment. I mean,
yeah, it's good.
Both very attractive people, so it's a compliment.
Actually, I think my wife said David is like the more attractive version of you, Jack, which is great. It's like, thanks wife. Yeah.
You're like, I agree, but ouch.
Like, well, he is a movie star, so that's probably good. Yeah, better than the other way around.
So had you worked? I mean, I guess you just picked them after like doing a casting call or something like that. Had you worked with any of them before? Or?
So for David, Marguerite, and Howell, who are our 3 leads, had not worked with them before. The way that works is you just say, "Hey, we're making this movie. Here's our dates," and you start to get the casting, or the agents sent to our casting director. Here's who available and interested might be a good fit. And then you sort of, in your mind, you look at them and you start watching the film with that person in mind. And then you say, let's do it. For a lot of the supporting cast, I've worked with quite a bit. Joel Murray and I have worked together before. Dave Pasquesi, a bunch of the supporting, Keith, who plays the cop brother, I'd worked with before. But for everyone below the top 3, we did auditions for. And some of them I'd worked with before. Paulina, who plays the sister, who I love in the movie. I think she's amazing. Crystal, she came into the audition and just, hadn't worked with her before, didn't know her, and she just like crushed it. I mean, we're like, oh my God, she's amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a nice mix of people that you worked before and then new talent that you kind of brought in. And it all came together very well. Like I really liked how like the cast kind of fit together. Everyone was very quirky in their own separate way, which made it a lot of fun to watch.
Right.
One specific in the movie I wanted to ask, so the bar number where there's this like dance number that happens while they're dancing. Was that always like that? Was that spontaneous? It was so random, but also just so much fun to see.
So it's in the script. It's always supposed to be there. The only thing we changed from what was scripted to what is in the film is when it happens in the film. We ended up employing a non-linear editing storytelling style for this film, which I actually always thought we were going to do, but I didn't want to write the script non-linearly because I just didn't want to bother with that. But the first cut, that scene happened more like 40 minutes in. Now it happens like 18 minutes in, I think. So that's the only thing that changed. No, that was always there. there's a lot of reasons why. I think it's a lot, in a lot of ways it sort of encapsulates the whole movie, because it's a known song, You Always Hurt the One You Love, and most people's only interaction with that song was that like movie with Ryan Gosling that came out a couple years ago, with it was in the trailer, and it's like sort of a sad ballad. It's You Only Hurt the One You Love, it's sort of a sad idea. But the Spike Jones is this like crazy version. Spike Jones is like the original Weird Al Yankovic from like the 1940s, and I heard him because my dad was significantly older. He had me later in life, and so he like grew up listening to Spike Jones in like the 40s, and so he had like a cassette tape, and we listened to all this Spike Jones, and this song is part of my childhood. And so there's a personal reason how I found it and got to it, and then just this idea that he's at this bar and he's trying to like get away from all these things, and then this is how he interacts with Amber, and she's sort of like this, I don't want to say seductress, but she like bewitches him into her like, hey, let's not ever move on from grief sort of
their world. Awesome. So I love that story. I love that you're bringing more things from your childhood into this film. This feels like a very personal journey. I know we have limited time, so I'm going to move. I call it the lightning round. It's just very short, lightweight questions about the film. I want to see how things that happen in the film relate to your experiences. We've already had some of them, so I can skip some. But the first question is, if you were ordering a drink, would you order something pineapple-y? And I'm wearing my pineapple shirt too. Just to. I
think I would. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm more like. I'm actually more like Laura in the movie. I think everyone, because of the gender, thinks I'm more like Ted. I'm actually more like Laura by far.
Awesome. Yeah, well, maybe they're both you combined, both aspects of you. Have you ever gotten in a fist fight?
No. Once, when it was like me and a friend, and we got into a fist fight because we had said we've never been into a fist fight, so let's fight each other.
Who won? Or I guess everyone wins it.
We pulled our punches to a spot where just like, everyone wins, everyone loses.
Yeah. Have you ever worn a cowboy hat in like everyday life, not like for a specific purpose?
I wish. No.
Do you own a sheepskin jacket?
No, I wish.
I mean, you could start.
Javier loved that costume so much. He was like, "Can I take it?" And I'm like, "Sorry, we can't, because we need it for reshoots." And he was so devastated. Actually, his boyfriend bought him like his own jacket. Because he loved it so much. Yeah,
no, it was perfect because it kind of established everything about him that you need to know. It's kind of ridiculous, but also is like kind of a tough guy. So it kind of fit everything in just his outfit. If you were a professor, what would you teach?
I don't want to say film because that would be boring. I would be, I'd be like Ted. We always said Ted was like a crappy Indiana Jones. He's like, I would do anthropology and archaeology.
Perfect. And I guess, have you ever been kicked out of a museum?
No.
I like how you had to think back through all the experiences.
I've done some dumb shit, so it's like I was like, it's possible that I have, but I don't think I have been kicked out of a museum. No.
Yeah, the museum kind of cabins it down. So, and the last question is, where do you want your ashes to be spread or dumped?
No one's asked that question. I've done a lot of interviews for this movie, and no one's asked that yet. That's a good one. I would definitely do ashes. I would not do like a burial, like in a coffin. I really like the idea, and this is actually another movie idea I had, but I don't want to be like the ashes movie guy, but like taking it around the world, sort of one last tour.
Very nice.
I like the idea of that.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then would you dump little pieces out at each spot?
Yeah.
Very nice. So kind of like that movie. What was it that came out with that had Legolas in it?
Yeah,
shoes.
Yes.
That one. And I don't know if this is just a sign of the times, but I've asked that question a lot in the last few interviews I've done. I think there's been a lot of movies where people maybe came to terms with things that happened in the last year. So, yeah. I guess
that's weird. Like, we made this movie and we shot it in 2019. I wrote it in 17, 18. Edited 19. Festival year was 2020, and so it's weird because when we made a movie that wasn't timely. We weren't trying to make a movie that was about a current event, and we ended up weirdly walking backwards into like, now we've all had this shared trauma experience.
Yeah, and this is a perfect movie that could have been during the pandemic. It was outdoors, it was a small cast, it was
totally.
Yeah, so awesome. So the movie comes out August 3rd, and it sounds like you already have ideas for next projects and things like that. So after this film's out, what's next for you? What can people look for? And also, where can people follow you and follow the movie?
Yeah. If they want to follow me, follow the movie Jack C. Newell on Instagram or Zaxi Films on Instagram. And my website is just jackcnewell.com. They can find me there. And that's usually pretty up to date. And I'm currently in post-production on a documentary I've been working on since 2011 called How Not to Build a School in Haiti. And it's about a school being built in Haiti after the earthquake in 2011. 2010, excuse me. And that I just locked a picture on it like 2 days ago, and we're starting the process of getting it sent to festivals and all that other stuff.
That sounds like it could be similar to this movie, like a sad subject that maybe will have some comedic aspects, but like an underlying heart and drama to it.
You got me pegged, man.
I got your style. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, and thanks for joining me. This is Jack C. Newell, the writer and director of Monuments, which is releasing on VOD and digital on August 3rd, 2021.
Great. Thanks, David.
Awesome. Thank you. That was Jack C. Newell, the writer and director of Monuments, which is releasing on digital and VOD on August 3rd, 2021. It's a quirky indie adventure that has, some comedy, some drama, and a whole lot of heart. If you liked this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot and make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And as always, please go to watchitpass.com for all your movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Thank you.